All right, it has been almost exactly a month since Anuj and I last sat down to record a podcast. Everything that you've been hearing over the last 30 days was pre-recorded in November and in December. So this is me getting back on the horse, and that means it's either going to go one of two ways. It's either going to go extraordinarily well because I have all this pent-up positive energy. We're going to pour it into this episode, or it means that this is going to be a hot mess express. So, you let me know in the comments afterwards how you think it went. But what I want to break down today is the step-by-step blueprint that I use to turn my ADHD into a superpower. This is what I call the Hyperfocus Blueprint, and it's top of mind right now because I just signed, or actually I'll be signing it today, a contract for a book deal to work on this book and bring it to the world in 2026. So let's flesh out some of these ideas together. The first idea is that freedom without constraints is chaos. Now, I've talked about this a lot in the past where when I was in my 20s, my ADHD manifests as this almost like oppositional defiance disorder. I could not be told what to do from anybody. As soon as somebody had any kind of demand on me, I would just reject it, and I would just kind of put my fingers in my ears and go, no, I'm not listening, right? And so I rejected external authority at every pass. And I went off into my life. I did my own thing. I kind of Peter Pan through my 20s. And I just lived life on my terms. I did what I wanted when I wanted, and I racked up tons of debt, and I had no skills. I had no resource. I had nothing. And when my life fell apart at 28 years old, it occurred to me at that moment, for whatever reason, that my problem wasn't with external authority. It was with any authority, even my own internal authority. I couldn't tell myself what to do. I couldn't create consistency and discipline and follow through. And I was breaking all the promises that I was making to myself because I didn't want to feel constrained. I didn't want to feel captive. I wanted to have the ability just to go do what I wanted when I wanted. And as a result, I had this life of extreme freedom, and then everything fell apart and I had nothing to show for it. And I was in really desperate straits. And so from that place, I started to realize, okay, I need to create some guardrails. I need to create some constraints in my life, some structure, some routines, so that I can actually start moving towards a singular direction rather than having all of my energies dispersed in like a 360-degree radius. And it wasn't until I started to create those constraints that my freedom, my ability to express myself actually started to make meaningful progress. And so that was the very first lesson, is that yes, freedom sounds great, but responsibility is the price of freedom. So if you want to be free, you have to step up and take control and accountability for that freedom. And if you can't do that, then it's just a matter of time until the universe is going to do it for you. Either you hold yourself accountable or the world's going to do it for you. And I had to learn that the hard way. So lesson number 2 in the Hyperfocus Blueprint here is that you have to stop watering fake plants. There are so many things that we do in our life that are actively holding us back rather than propelling us forward. And often when we think about, okay, I want to be there at the top of the mountain, we think about all the things that we need to start doing, all the habits, the rituals, the skills that we need to acquire. We think about all of that stuff. What things do I need to load up and put into my backpack so that I'm prepared for the trip up the mountain? The reality is most of us have just filled our backpacks with rocks. And we have dead weight all around us, and we don't realize that we can just let it go, and that the trip up the mountain gets infinitely easier as soon as you do that. Without having to add anything, we just need to subtract. This was called addition through subtraction. Michelangelo was famously asked, how did you carve Michelangelo? And he said, it's easy. I just removed everything that wasn't Michelangelo. Or not Michelangelo, David. Michelangelo said this. How did you carve David, right? And so in the same way, we have to ask ourselves, what are those things that we're doing in our lives right now that are not moving us forward, that are in fact holding us back? Those vices, watching Netflix late at night, or ruining your nutrition, or not getting into the gym, getting terrible sleep. What are those things that that if you were to stop doing them, you would start moving forward just by consequence of having more time, more energy, more clarity, more resources? Stop watering the fake plants. Another way of putting that is to stop doing with excellence things which shouldn't be done at all. Number 3 is you need to rig the game in your favor. So the way that you show up in the fourth quarter on 4th and 5 or 4th and goal with 15 seconds left on the clock is very different than how you show up on the very first play of the game. Right? Most people on the first play of the game, they're going to show up, they have energy, they're focused and all that stuff, but they know that they still have 4 quarters. We're using a football analogy, I guess. I don't play football. I don't really follow football. So if I get this wrong, stick with me. But we play differently, feeling as though we have more time to correct later. Like, oh, they scored right now. Not a big deal. We have time to get it back. In the fourth quarter, when there's only time for one more play, it's very different how you show up to play. You don't concede and say, well, we'll get them the next time on the next play, because there is no next play. It's now or it's never. And if you want to rig the game in your favor, you need to pull deadlines forward. This is the Parkinson's law, right? Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the time allotted. The more time you give yourself to do something, you give yourself 4 quarters to win the game, you're going to use every one of those quarters, right? If you only have 15 seconds left on the clock and 1 play left to get it done, you're going to play that play very differently. And so pull deadlines forward. Rig the game in your favor by not allowing yourself so much time to waste. Number 4, you need to close cognitive loops. So there's a lot of thoughts right now swirling through your head. You're trying to keep, your family, your friends, your work, your money, your politics, your religion, all these things are all swirling around in your head in this chaotic jumble. And if you don't have a means for pulling that out of your skull and putting it somewhere so that your brain, your squishy little brain, doesn't have to keep holding on to it, then your squishy little brain is going to keep working in overdrive to try and hold it all together. The easiest thing that I found for clearing the overwhelm, giving me clarity, just giving me a sense of, okay, I'm not just chasing every single shiny object, is to take all of those shiny objects from my brain and actually put them down on the page, document them somewhere, whether that's in a tool like Asana or Notion or just physically on a journal. It doesn't matter. Get your thoughts out of your head, put them onto paper, because your brain is a terrible storage device. It's great for creating things, not for storing things. Create a second brain for the storage so that your first brain, your primary brain, your squishy brain can focus on what it does best, which is creating. All right, next, number 5, I think this is that you need to guard your most valuable asset. And most people think that their most valuable asset is their time. You hear this all the time. Time is your most valuable resource, right? But it's not, because time is not real. Time is not a objective measure in reality. And you're not managing time. What you're doing is you're managing your energy. And as a result of where you manage your energy, your focus, your attention goes. And so you need to get to the root, to the first principle of what is your most valuable resource. And it's not time, it's energy. You don't run on time, you run on energy. That is a massive mindset shift right there on its own. I promise you adopt that mindset and the game changes really quickly. The second part of this, the next rule in this blueprint ties right into this, which is that your energy fuels your focus. Where your focus goes, things grow. So if you aren't moving quickly towards your goals because you're not fixated on it, you're not putting all of your energy towards that. And so we need to look at how do we maximize our energy. And there's really 3 ways that you can do this. You have sleep, you have nutrition, and you have exercise. That's how you maximize your energy. That's like filling up your raw tank of energy. And then from there, how you dispense it is how you optimize it. And you need to have both of those. You need to first figure out, how do I maximize my energy? And then second, how do I deploy it effectively? Next is, as you're going through your life, even if you have maximum energy, you're deploying it at will, and you're focused on the things that you want that are going to move you towards your goals and be awesome for your life. Great. Things still come up. Things still get in the way. Right? And the way I think about focus is it's the ability to direct your attention with intention. The thing that stops you from having focus or being attentive is distraction. It's when things get in the way and separate you from the ability to direct the attention with intention. And so your squishy little biological brain, which wants to be lazy and sit on the couch and do nothing productive all day because it just wants to keep you alive long enough to reproduce, and that's about it. That part of your brain is very sneaky, and it finds all sorts of ways to distract you without you even recognizing it, without you noticing it. And so what you need to do is create an intention maintenance protocol. And this is where the power of intention comes in. See, what I did in the beginning of my journey, and I still use this to a certain degree. I don't use it in the same way anymore. But what I would do is I would program this random alarm to go off on my phone multiple times throughout the day. And when it would go off, it was accompanied with the question, what's my intention? And all that is a pattern interrupt that would stop me in the midst of whatever I was doing. So if it went off right now, for instance, I would look at that, I'd glance over and be like, what's my intention? Or what's my outcome? What's the point of being here right now? What am I hoping to get out of this? And just that one little reframe helps me reapply myself to this moment with more intention. Now, if it had caught me sitting on the couch scrolling social media, that would also catch me out, and I'd go, oh yeah, no, this isn't moving me towards my goals at all. I have found myself going down a social media well, and this is not productive. And then it allows me to get back onto task. Okay. Next is you need to have some kind of prioritization protocol, some kind of way to say what are the most important things that I should be working on, because you only have so much time in the day, you only have so much energy that you can give. And so if you want to move towards your goals quicker than most, it's simply a matter of where you apply the energy towards the activities that have the most leverage. And so you need to have a way of saying this activity is more important than that activity. It's more primary than this one. When I ask people like, what's your priority? And they tell me like, oh, I have these 2 or 3. And I say, okay, yeah, but which is the priority? Because priority means like there's only one, right? And if you can't identify like what is the priority in any given moment, then you don't really have any priorities. So you have to have some kind of protocol that helps you objectively look at the tasks in your life that you need to do and say, which is the most important, in which order am I going to do it, and which blocks of energy am I going to allocate towards accomplishing that thing. I've talked about this in other podcasts, like different systems that you can use for this called like the ICE protocol. That's really powerful. I'm not going to go into that right now, but for the next one in this blueprint, this Hyperfocus Blueprint is lifting mental weights every single day. So when I was young, like this was one of my big problems with teachers in school when I was young. You know, I had ADHD and they didn't really understand it back then. And so they would say things like, just try harder, try it sitting still, try harder, right? And it didn't really work. You can develop your focus, you can develop that mental concentration muscle for sure. But more important for me, I had to learn all the other stuff around that. Now, that doesn't mean that getting into the gym every single day to do mental weightlifting is useless. It just takes a long time, right? Like the teachers were trying to tell me, try harder, as though like if I just tried hard enough in that moment, I was going to be able to deadlift 400 pounds. It wasn't going to happen. Like at that point, I needed to start with 50 pounds and then work my way up over the next 2 decades to 400 pounds. So it takes a long time, but that's how compounding interest works. So you need to be getting into the gym every single day and doing mental weightlifting, whether that's through journaling or meditation or, you know, some kind of activity that requires extreme concentration. You have to implement that now. And over time, you can get the benefits of that compounding interest, but it's not going to be a fast thing. Now, last but not least is what is going to be a fast thing if you want to realize like instant improvement to your ability to focus and direct your attention, is to design your environment with intention and care. And so I like to think about is creating a fortress of focus. And so what is it that you can create in your life, in your environment, your office, your living room, your house, your work, your office, your workplace, whatever? How can you design it in a way that it's conducive for focus to occur, for creativity to occur, and it reduces the likelihood of distractions occurring? I also did another podcast on this. We're not going to go too deep into that for now, but that is, in a nutshell, the 10-step, I think that was 10 steps. I might have gone more, I might have gone less. I don't know. That was a 10-step Hyperfocus Blueprint. Follow these, implement one every single month for the next 12 months, and I promise you, you are going to be in a fundamentally different position next year than you are right now. Your ability to direct your most valuable resource, your energy and your focus, is going to be night and day better. So take these and run with it. If you got any value out of this, guys, let me know. Take a screenshot and share it on Instagram. Find me, the Anthony Vicino. Just tag me in it. I will share it with my community. We'll give you all the love in the world. And that's going to do it for me, guys and gals. See you in the next episode.